Alright, hey guys, it's Vince from Team 2 Legit Crit. Gonna bring you a deck profile. I figure, said GPT-08 is not gonna be out for a little while, but when it does come out, I'll be able to update this deck, but I wanted to show it off since I don't think I have yet on the channel. It's my Genesis Fenrir deck. It's really, really good, but at the same time, it might fall short sometimes. In my opinion, the deck is really strong. It's got hand advantage, it's got field presence, it's got power, it's got all three key features you need to make a deck. For the starter, you toss it into the soul. Gives your Vanguard the ability if something gets soul blasted, you get this period call that unit. It's a GB1. Not terrible. It's great 5k booster, and you just throw it in the soul sometimes when you have to if you want to get an extra call, because this deck is really strong against board wipe decks like Kagero, Narukami, anything control based, I mean minus Link Joker, because it gives you free board presence while you're able to conserve your hand and keep up your guards. Your big boss, your big daddy, for Mythical Beast Fenrir. Genesis's Break Stride. When you stride on him, you have a mandatory Soul Charge 3. Then the stride you have gains the ability of, when something is Soul Blasted, you may CB1 and call that unit to a rearguard circle. The GB2 I find myself never really using, and even if I resort to using it, like if I can't stride, I'm not going to win that matchup anyway. But as for a Break Stride, it's amazing that it just keeps soul charging, soul charging, soul charging every turn. Your soul gets really big. Plus, every turn, getting to call one card, even though if it's at the cost of a counterblast, you do really good with it. I haven't found a really good backup, but right now I'm just playing for Fortuna. I like a pure Fenrir build compared to the Fenrir Regalia builds going around. There's Fenrir Minerva, Fenrir CEO. I don't like the Regalia builds as much. I like pure Fenrir, so I'm just playing for Fortuna as a backup. I might switch this to Yatagarasu because it lets you stand some stuff and get some more push, but yeah, she's not too bad. The only problem is when you stride with her as your Vanguard, you don't get the soul charge, and then you start to lose your ability to play. But if you can't stride and you're stuck on her, she's actually not terrible if your soul is built up. Soul Blast 3 for plus 5k, or her limit break is Soul Blast 3. When you drive check something that is not a trigger, you may discard that card and perform one more drive check, so you basically get a do-over. Alright, grade 2s, one of the best grade 2s in the deck. You got 4 Unappeasable Biter Gleipnir. Gleipnir is your Amber clone. When you boost CB1, GB1, you get to Soul Charge 3 cards off the top of your deck, and it's always off the top of the deck, I don't know why I said that, but you Soul Charge 3, and then if you have Soul Blasted during that turn, you may draw one card. I've noticed Fenrir calling him out from the soul, or I like to ride him as a ride target. It keeps him safe because people like to attack him because he's your draw engine. He lets you draw more. And that's what keeps your hand huge, is when you call from soul and you have the draw engine. Excuse me. So when people like to attack him, I like to ride him just so he stays in my soul to be safe, so I can call him later and still get my free draw so he doesn't get attacked. Sometimes if I have to, I'll call him early game to get the attacks because I play the 4 and I know I'm going to draw into it, but best ride target in my opinion. Next you got 4 Mythic Snake Jormungand. Really amazing power hitter. GB1, when something is soul blasted, this card gains 1000 power until the end of turn. So that stacks, that counts each card. So let's say if you soul blast 6, you get plus 6k on him, makes him a 15 with a 7k booster. It's a 22 on the Vanguard. It's like, if even when most of your skills are a Soul Blast 3, it still makes him a 12k, but it's really good because you can stack him with a grade 1 that has the same skill behind him. And even though it's GB1, I like to throw him out early game because he'll draw attacks to him, just like Gleipnir might sometimes if I need to. But riding him is pretty good too because everything you ride you can Soul Blast. But probably my favorite ride target is the promo card from a little while ago, Twilight Regalia Hesperus. Only Regalia I play, minus, I think, triggers, but this card has not GB, because it's pretty old, actually. When you Soul Blast her, you choose one of your Vanguards to get the skill of when the attack hits the opponent's Vanguard, you may retire a unit. It gives you board control, and it lets you control some of those annoying cards, maybe if there's a Laurel on the board, a Limit Break Enabler for a deck that's turbo like that, or any just annoying, maybe even a starter if you stride first, and you can Soul Blast her and give your Vanguard the skill, and they don't want to guard. Final grade 2, 1 Witch of Ravens Chamomile. Everything you Soul Blast, you can CB1 to call. So you do burn through your counterblast because there's not a lot of unflip in this deck, but you can still get the job done if you know how to play it. With Chamomile, it's just another card I can superior call in case I want to call two more, like two things, one with Fenrir, one with this, or if I use the starter, I can call three things. It just lets you fill your field up a little easier. Grade 1's obvious, Force Stride Enabler. Get your stuff done, lets you search out Fenrir because you have to ride Fenrir in this deck, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. 4, Mythic Beast Hottie. This is the clone of the Grade 2. When something is Soul Blasted, this card gets plus 1,000 for each card. So it becomes a nice 10k booster if you Soul Blast 3. If you Soul Blast 6, it's 15. It's a nice booster behind a 9k. It's 24 with the Soul Blast 6, or worst comes to worst, not 24, 22. Worst comes to worst, if you Soul Blast 3, it's only a 10k booster and hits 19. But if you have Jormungand and Hottie in the same column, you're hitting 22s off a Soul Blast 3 and 28s off a Soul Blast 6, which is really great numbers that you're hitting. And of course, 2, Witch of Frogs Melissa. It's just like Chamomile. It's that extra call power. It lets you get a few more plays in, a few more pushes. Let's say you attack with this column, attack with your Vanguard and Soul Blast. You can slap this in a column and something in front of it. And the obvious 4, Goddess of... can't read that. Goddess of Decline, Hell. It's your G Perfect guard. You guard with it, you discard a card, unflip. Triggers. I play 4 of the Push in the Soul plus 3k crit, 4 of the Witch crit, even though I only play the 3 Witch cards. Sometimes if I find myself riding into a Witch, which is cool because if you Soul Blast it, you get to draw. You can slap this back into your deck, draw, check top 3, filter your soul charges. And 2 Bumping Buffalo. 10 crits, and I play 2 of the greatest stand trigger ever printed in this game, Dreaming Dragon. Dreaming Dragon has the GB1. During your end phase, you may shuffle this unit and your entire drop zone back into your deck, and if you have shuffled 10 or more cards, not including him, you get to draw 1 card. So it's a nice draw during your end phase. There have been so many times I just soul charge into this, and I'm like, great, I can keep this into my soul. It will not be in the damage where I can't get it back. And if it's in my soul, it's safe to get Superior called later when I'm going into my beefy strides, and it lets me draw during my end phase and keep my hand up and put my deck back in case I'm running low. So 10 crit, 2 stand. I like the 10 crit because, like I said, being able to call from the soul, you keep your hand pretty nicely in this deck. If you play draw triggers, or personally in my opinion, you're going to deck out a lot, which is not a fun time. And for heals, I've got 2 of the Regalia and 2 of the Witch. Got to split a 50-50. Stride Zone, obviously the most important part of the deck, so I saved it for last. 4 of the Big Bad Boss Mythical Destroyer Beast, Vanguard. He's your Persona Flip Stride from back in the olden days. You got the 1 SP. Skill is, while on your Vanguard circle, Soul Blast 6 during the attack. Flip a copy. Then, this unit gains the skill of, after the opponent's Guardian step, which is like after they place the guards and everything, check the top 4 cards of your deck, put any order on the top of the deck, put them in any order on the top and bottom of your deck. So let's see, you check top 4 and you have 2 triggers in the middle, you slap those on top, the other 2 on the bottom, and you guarantee double crit, or double trigger rather. It's really good for those times when your opponent has to no guard him because his number is pretty huge, and you can try to rip off a double crit. Even if you don't get all your triggers on the top, you're going to filter down, you're going to put the non-triggers on the bottom and hope you hit more. So many games are won with him on a 2 or a 3 to pass where you can just rip into it because of his own skill because you know it's coming. And sometimes if your opponent has the guards for it, they know that you're going to have triggers on the rear guards, so sometimes they just let the hit happen or they can't do anything about it. For Genesis, I feel like this was an amazing stride because it kind of brings Genesis into the Oracle Think Tank way of playing where basically I crit you because I know what's in my deck, but this is a 1-card setup instead of having to stack your deck over and over and over and over and over again. The 1 Fighters Collection stride we got, Beast Slayer Military Deity Tier. I would be playing more of this with the 16 strides. This isn't a 16 stride filled yet, but I obviously just need to pick up a couple more cards. But Tier is a really good card. Soul Blast 3. Once per turn, Soul Blast 3. Check the top card of your deck, put it on the top or bottom, and then your Vanguard gains the red skill. Whenever this unit's drive check reveals a grade 1 or greater card, Soul Charge 3. He's my typical first turn stride nowadays. You get to just Soul Charge a ton of cards at max 9, but that's plenty for your deck to run on for the rest of the game. You don't have to worry about running out of soul or not doing something, because Gleipnir fills your soul, Fenrir fills your soul, and now Tyr fills your soul. Next, I think it's one of the best generic strides in the game, Doom Brace. Easy skill, once per turn, Soul Blast 3, choose 2 rear guards, and they get plus 5,000 for the turn. And then, if your soul has 2 or less, you soul charge 3 more. He's an amazing, amazing first stride. I just find myself going into Tyr a little bit more. So if you stride into him when you have a grade 1 and a 2 in your soul, and you have your grade 3 heart, you soul charge 3, so you'll have 5. You soul blast 3 to give plus 5,000 to 2 things, and with Fenrir you can call 2 things that you soul blasted. And then since you have 2 or less with his ability, you soul charge more, so you get no net difference in your soul, but you give 2 rear guards plus 5k. That's a nice trigger boost to give him. It combos amazingly with Fenrir. I just don't see myself going into it as much as I used to, because Tyr now just lets me filter, filter, filter. The only thing, I would go into it more if you were able to give power to the units you called, but because the way it works, you Soul Blast, finish his effect by giving power, and then call the units, so you're not allowed to give power to who you call. I don't need 4. I think 3 is good enough. I was going to play 2 more Tyr to make 6. 1 obligatory Blizza, because 16G zone, if you have a lot face up, he's a huge beat stick if you're their guards. And 2 of the Goddess of 7 color Iris, the G Guardian. This card is easily one of the best G Guardians. When you guard with it, you may select 3 cards in your drop zone and slap them into your soul, just like the Regalia cards. It's so good. The way I like to play this deck is I like to filter through my entire deck, draw as much as possible, soul charge as much as possible, then soul blast all of my triggers, and just use this to put as many triggers back in my deck as possible. And she helps that by picking 3 non-triggers from the drop and slapping them back into the soul. That obviously you're gonna play the Dark Element Guardian, the Screw You Guardian, and the Febreze. Oh, excuse me, I just don't have those in this deck just yet. But G Genesis is really powerful right now, but it just still needs that extra oomph to get in there. I've been able to beat a lot of decks with this. I've been able to beat Thing Blaster, Kagero. It's really powerful, and it can get the job done, but there are some times you're like, I've run out of Vanguard, and Doom Brace isn't really doing it for me for a final stride. I need more. And it doesn't have all of its support announced yet. We're still waiting on what Fenrir's Stride Fusion is going to be. But I think once the things come out, we're going to see Genesis in top tables a little bit more than we're used to. Hopefully more than 0 times. Alright, well that's going to be this deck profile, guys. Remember to rate, favorite, comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll bring you more videos in the future. Later.